I am speaking with Susan Kelly, who is the co-founder and president of Generous Gardeners. Hi, Susan. How are you today? It's raining.
Hi. Yes, it's raining, so it's a great day to be behind a computer.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to start right out and ask you how the gardens have done in all this rain this summer. It's been no one's had to water, but how have you done?
Well, that's actually not true about the watering. I have been watering Main Street every other day of the baskets, the hanging basket program. So, but yeah, and actually I have been watering traffic islands too. Yes, there has been more rain than usual, but it it's never consistent and it's never even. So you have to, yes, there is watering involved. But the flowers, I think, first of all, I think Gloucester looks pretty spectacular right now.
Just beautiful.
Yeah.
Really spectacular.
And yeah, it's really gives me a lot of joy to see everything so tended. I mean, that's a well-tended perennial garden is a beautiful thing. And so we have, I think the boulevard is gorgeous. The dahlias are shorter than normal. We think it had to do with the rain and the heat, and dahlias don't really like a ton of rain. So, but they are now starting to all of these, we have so many new varieties and they're starting to just be wow, but it'll probably be peaking not till the end of September, but they already are just amazing, amazing dahlias on the boulevard. And then some of the daylilies, I don't know if you know the first year it sleeps, second year it creeps, third year it leaps. And a lot of the daylilies that we planted 3 years ago and some of the late blooming ones that we planted 2 years ago are finally showing. And those are the ones that are really tall. And there's some really unusual varieties. Now, again, it's fun to see them. You have to be very patient as a gardener. That's one of the things that, people don't, a lot of people just, they go buy the prettiest thing they can find at the garden store. But, a perennial garden is a time commitment and a practice of patience and also to move things around until they're happy. We always have problems. Right now, we're actually, I just looked up, we need to get some plant possible diseases identified. I'm sending them to the UMass labs to understand why the dianthus in the Fisherman Wives Memorial, many of them are turning brown and dying, and we just replaced a lot of that soil, so it's not the salt that we thought it was. So again, it's constant. It's fun. It's really fun though. It's fun to be able to do that. To see such a beautiful thing come to fruition. It's nice.
Well, why don't you just give us the 1, 2, 3 of Generous Gardeners? Who does the work? Where are the beds where people can go and actually really see them? Of course, the spectacular view is on Stacy Boulevard, but give us the whole lowdown on what Generous Gardeners is and what they do.
Okay, so I started Generous Gardeners 10 years ago, and it's kind of evolved over time, but really our mission is beautification of Gloucester, Massachusetts with public flower gardens. That's our mission, philanthropy through gardening. And we are now over 65 volunteers, which just blows my mind. Because it started with 3 of us. I grabbed a couple of people from my exercise class and we tried to start cleaning up some of these beds that were just so dilapidated. And the Green Aprons have helped. Of course, Stacy Boulevard has made us very prominent. I think we would be still toiling in obscurity if we hadn't had the Boulevard. But ever since 2016, when the Boulevard really came under, people noticed and they see the Green Aprons and then they asked to volunteer. So we are volunteer gardeners. There is nobody paid. We have no staff. We have it's 100% volunteer, and we maintain 45 public spaces in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And if you want to see the list of them, it's on our website. We even have a nice interactive map that Cindy Deal put together for us. And it shows where they all are. But it started with the Fisherman Wives Memorial when they didn't have any money for flowers, and we ran our first garden tour for them to raise money for that. And then we kind of realized Ann Johnson, who designed the Fisherman Wives Memorial and is a volunteer, she also designed all the beds on Stacy Boulevard. She's the one who first approached me and asked about helping out, and it just kind of ballooned from there. So now our garden tour is the primary fundraiser for our mission, and we had a very successful tour in East Gloucester this year. Next year is going to be West Gloucester. So
beautiful! Oh, that's such a difference, and it will be
huge
interesting.
Difference. It's sprawling. It's very, very different. But yeah, so we take care of every traffic island. O'Malley School, the Magnolia Library. I mean, you can see the list of it, everything from, very small traffic islands to, Stacy Boulevard, which counts as one. And of course, the Betty Smith Park, the Elizabeth Gordon Smith Park is a huge new success for us. And that's, we're very proud of that.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that, right? Is that in the?
That's behind the tennis courts on Stacy Boulevard. And yeah, that is when we talk, we are going to talk about that.
Okay, so let's just catch up very quick, or return just for a second to the garden tour. So It was a success, and we have to remind people everything is done with donations at Generous Gardeners, right? So this fundraiser is really important.
It is very, very, very important, and we were very pleased we could have it as a walking tour this year. It was very nip and tuck. I mean, it was we really just got in under the wire because they were not going to allow any events until after August, and by August, most of these perennial gardens don't have much to show, so it would not have worked. But we had over 600 people. We sold out. Over 600 people in East Gloucester, and there were 12 gardeners' gardens, and people really enjoyed the fact that the homeowners were there, very proud of their gardens, explaining things, and it was people said it was the best garden tour we've ever had. So
that's wonderful. Great. Well, moving forward, actually, let's return to 2020. You nominated the City of Gloucester for an important award last year, and the City of Gloucester received 2 of those awards. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. America in Bloom is an organization. It was started as part of the American Horticultural Society to promote exactly kind of what Generous Gardeners does, to have cities and towns use beautification through flowers to promote their city, to make everybody happy, and to have attract tourism, to do all of those things for economic benefits and whatnot. And I knew about it for years, but I really didn't feel like we were in a great position until last year to apply for the award. And normally they send 3 judges out for 3 days, and you have to put them up, and you have to feed them, and you have to show them around, and they judge you on all kinds of things. And we were ready to do that. And then COVID hit, and they canceled that and did a whole different approach of self-nominating. Because we had applied for the in-person one, we were allowed to self-nominate, and so we self-nominated in various categories, and we won for flowers and for community involvement. And again, we submitted videos and pictures, and you can always show the best side of things when you do things that way. And we had a nice video that's on our website that we had done, and that definitely helped kind of let people understand Gloucester, the best sides of Gloucester. And so this year they again canceled the in-person, and they're also just having a symposium in the sky. They're having a virtual. They normally have a big kind of convention where they award, where they make the awards, and that's going to all be just virtual this year. It's the end of September 28th, 29th, and 30th, and I think it's free. It's called Symposium in the Sky, America in Bloom, and I think anybody can watch it. But so this year we were looking at the different categories, and we again, of course, applied for flowers because that's an outstanding achievement award. That's one of the top level awards. And then they had special categories awards that we applied for. What's old is new again. Best repurpose of something old. So we submitted the Elizabeth Gordon Smith Park before and after pictures of that area behind the tennis courts on Stacy Boulevard. That was really, people were upset when the tree came down. It was dead. It was a maple tree that was dead. It was dangerous. It had been limbed together. It was like on its very last legs. It wasn't completely dead, but it was a danger. It was, basically it was held together by dead limbs. And also the area was completely covered in poison ivy. And so the beautiful Triton sculpture that's there was basically hidden from view, and as we said in the application, there was many unsavory activities occurred in that area because it was so hidden and dark, and so we, Ann Johnson again, and Gallardi Johnson, who designed the boulevard and designed the thing, she put together a design. She's a Harvard educated landscape architect, and Radcliffe, she designed the plan with the flowering trees and the path that now connects, and the DPW put in the path, the granite edge path that connects it to the rest of the boulevard, and Generous Gardeners paid for all the installation, the work for the installation, and again, it was all privately raised funding and a lot of funding from the Gloucester Civic and Garden Council that we had just merged with. So that was part of the arrangement because they had previously cared for that property. So the Triton is now part of Generous Gardeners, the beautiful Triton. We had that waxed and cleaned, and I think it's a beautiful area. The one funny thing is, so we planted 7,000 tulips, red tulips there last fall, and that was, I mean, one of our volunteers joked that you could see them from the International Space Station because you can see when you come around the boulevard, that mass of red was just like, I personally thought it was a little overwhelming. I pitched to the board that we should change colors and not have it red anymore, and I was completely shot down. So
it looks great in the video.
Right, and it is like a whoa. I mean, I thought there was a little bit of a clashing with the flowering trees, and from up close, but from the road and from when you enter the boulevard, it was just a wow. So we are planting. Again, I'm ordering another 7,000 red tulips that we're going to be putting. So we're definitely going to have lots of red. It is going to be continuing. But anyway, so we submitted that as a special category. So we submitted flowers for the Outstanding Achievement Award, that for the special award, and then there were two other categories that were kind of other organizations under the umbrella of American Bloom. And one of them is this, one of them was the All-American Selections. It's a seed, an organization that vets annual seed varieties, and you can have show gardens and show beds, and there's certain criteria. And so they sent us in February. We were one of 20 cities and towns selected to compete in this category, and they sent us 20 varieties of All-American Selection seeds in February. And we had one of our growers, and we'll talk about who grows our plants for us, in a little bit. But they grew the little seedlings from us. So it was a little late. We got them late, so there were 4 packs when we finally got them. They were pretty small, and we planted them at the tennis courts on Stacy Boulevard next to those granite beds, and then on Rocky Neck in the Memorial Park, I believe it's Tuffer Memorial Park, right when you enter Rocky Neck on the left. There are 3 large planters there that we'd actually had rebuilt 2 years ago. So those are the All-American Selection showcase gardens that we did. And so that's another category. And then the final category, which everyone is talking about now, is the YouTube video. And the YouTube video was mandated. It had to be under 3 minutes. And the idea was that it showcased your city and how winning awards from American Bloom, impacted your environment. And I thought Sean did a great job with that. Sean O'Laughlin, he was the producer, and of course, we didn't have lots of credits because, again, everybody, we're all volunteers, and everybody would have had to been listed, and it was just it's not that professional of a
oh, it's beautiful. And you guys
it is professional, but right? We didn't want to waste our 3 minutes on on credits rather than showcasing the city.
Right. Well, let's just talk a little bit more about gardening. You purchase a lot of plants. I mean, you grow things from seed, but you're working with growers, right? Talk to us about that. How many plants you order, how you decide what you're going to be. You have to think about this all winter, right?
Right. No. I have to get my order in. We try to get our orders in pretty early because, again, they need to plan. That. So Cedar Rock Gardens, our locally grown, wonderful, Tucker and Elise in West Gloucester. They've been growing the annuals for the Boulevard since the beginning, and
that's wonderful.
And they've now, they do vegetables too, but they are, that was one of the things that was been wonderful. They've been amazing to work with. And so they grew all the annuals for the Boulevard. But then we needed so many and so many more that we decided to split rather than buy stuff basically retail in the spring and pay full price. If we order in the fall then we get really good wholesale prices. So we ordered from Noonan's in Georgetown. Mm-hmm. So we ordered all of the Snow Princess Alyssum that's all over. That came from them because that's we have lots and lots of that everywhere. And we also stuff for the traffic islands and the foot wash station at Good Harbor Beach. And, so again, we kind of divide it up, but Tucker and Elise do pretty much as much as they can handle from us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest we sent to Noonan's, and Noonan's, Steve Noonan is a friend of one of our volunteers, and that helped. So we went up in February and handed him these seeds and said, you need to start them right away, please do it. And he did it because he actually knew all about the All American in Bloom program, and he was happy to be helpful with that. So he was Steve Flynn at Noonan's was really helpful. And so that was because that was kind of a last minute addition. We weren't planning on those annuals. So we ended up having almost too many annuals when everything was finally delivered. But of course, with 45 spaces, there's never too many flowers. And,
right.
And as I told you, I suffer from plant acquisition disorder. So this is a really fun time to acquire plants and read catalogs. And right now I'm doing the bulb order because we use Color Blends, which is out of Connecticut, because all the bulbs, of course, come from the Netherlands, but they're out of Connecticut, and they give us a nice discount in exchange for an ad in our garden tour booklet. And so we order our bulbs from them, the tulips. But this year we are not doing purple or yellow tulips because of the salt damage issues we had.
Oh, interesting.
We're gonna cover those beds with impervious tarps for the winter and hopefully mitigate some of the damage from the.
And this is from being right on the ocean and the road, maybe?
No, it's not really, it's the ocean. The ocean.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if you walked on the boulevard in the spring, but the purple and yellow beds on the side toward the bocce courts on that side, they had maybe 2 or 3 tulips, that came up out of the 5,000 that we planted in each bed. It was really very depressing in that sense. But the DPW was extremely helpful. I want to, give a shout out of thanks to Mike Hale that they gave us, 5 guys for 2 weeks to remove all that soil, and we put in all brand new soil in those beds, which is why we want to protect those beds now. So we'll do pansies in the spring there, and instead of tulips. I know people, they want the tulips, but you can't cover with plastic. You can't cover the beds if you're going to have tulips. So.
Right. And how about soil? Every gardener thinks a lot about soil. Are you having to enrich these beds like seriously every year? What
we Neptune, again, another shout out to Neptune's Harvest. They give us $1,000 worth of homegrown fertilizer. We also we put compost on all the beds this year. We did a lot of composting on Grand Circle. We put compost everywhere and actually in Grand Circle, this is a little funny. So I've been filling up the water tanks for Main Street at Grand Circle because the water pressure there is wonderful. And I've noticed that since we put compost down, we have some zucchini and tomato plants. on Grand Circle. So I just harvested a couple of zucchinis from Grand Circle. And that sometimes happens when you do compost. But again, it's we want the soil to be healthy, and it's better than mulch is to put that down. And we did that on the boulevard beds this spring too. Yeah. So yes, we do think a lot about soil health. We get the soil tested. Again, salt is our biggest problem living where we live.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Well, anything else you want people to know about Generous Gardeners? Is there a way we can vote for the awards or participate?
That's actually a good question. I do not believe so. It's American Bloom Symposium in the Sky. You can certainly watch it the end of September. I'm going to be traveling actually first time in ages. I'm going to Colorado. My daughter is getting her PhD in soil ecology. So I know she's defending her dissertation while the symposium is going on. So
that's so exciting.
Yeah, she's all about agriculture though. She's all about food. She does think flowers are a little bit of a waste of time, but anyway, but we are still, we play in the same pool,
Yeah, you do. That's so interesting. Wow. Well, so if people, again, we will be showing the video, but if people want to make a donation to Generous Gardeners, and everyone probably should, how can they do that? Or to learn more about the organization?
To learn more. Okay. We have a lot of information on our website, generousgardeners.org, and you can of course make a donation there. Our address is 101 Western Ave, which is my real job, microsearch. So that's the mailing address for Generous Gardeners as well. 101 Western Ave, Gloucester. I'm right next to the Cut Bridge, so I'm right by the boulevard.
So you're watching those beds all day long. Yeah,
I can just walk right out the door and right down there. It's a wonderful location. Yeah, we moved our business here 3 years ago. It was great.
That's great. Well, I have one more question. Do you have a favorite plant this year? Like, is there something you just said, oh my gosh, this plant is This is the winner. It's
You
healthy.
should warn me about this. I have to think so. So, whatever. I basically love anything that's blooming now. That's the, that is the way. I used to just be all into plant propagation. And so I loved sedums because you could propagate them so easily. And I loved rudbeckia because they would seed so easily. And I mean, the longer I'm a gardener, you get a little bit more picky about, instead of quantity, you want quality. And, but again, because we have so many spaces to care for, I do love generous plants. I love plants that self-seed. I love plants that can be divided. But I say daylilies are still my favorite. And even though they've become kind of the poor second cousin on the boulevard, because that was my original intention, was to have it all daylilies. But then we discovered dahlias, and the dahlias they're so showy. They kind of took over the show. And so then between the tulips and the dahlias, the daylilies are kind of like, oh.
Yeah, you're making me feel badly for those daylilies. Yeah. And I do love daylilies too.
And they're tough. They're tough and they're generous and they're hardy and they can be divided. And we will be selling a lot of daylilies this fall for $10 for a nice generous fan. So if there's a particular one that you loved, you can email me or we'll be advertising it. But come September, we're going to be digging and dividing because a lot of those daylilies need to be divided. They're getting overgrown.
Susan, thank you so much for everything you've done and for talking to me today and for creating these amazing gardens.
And I want to make sure that I'm not taking credit for everything. There are many of us, particularly Antonetta Calabrese, who spends, and I do want to make sure she gets a special shout out because she spends every day on the boulevard. And I could not, I do a lot of administrative work, but I could not do the gardening without somebody like Antonetta and other volunteers who do all the maintenance.
Well, thank you to them too. Big thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
This episode of Cape Ann Today is brought to you by Bank Gloucester. Start here, get there.